Pittsburgh, PA. I actually, did you log in on your computer too?
Hmm. So I can see us.
Oh, that is hilarious. Guys, your phone. Um, all right, guys. So I'm literally, okay. I wanted to be able to see any comments and stuff that came through. I know you guys were on before. We had to kind of fix some stuff. So keep on coming in, keep on coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have Siobhan here. She is from Genesis Network. And I've been so blessed, within the academy to be able to hear so many dreams, so many wonderful individuals that are trying to teach, train, and transform in their own unique way. And Siobhan and I know each other for many years, and I've been able to see her transform. And so, one of her areas that she likes to speak on is the priority aspect of and boundaries essentially, but of self-care. Um, so hopefully you guys enjoy this. I know that, like I said, let me go ahead and do some sharing real quick to make sure that everybody has it because we had to change. But Siobhan, go ahead and introduce yourself while I'm sharing.
So hello, everybody. My name is Siobhan Walker from the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. I am a life coach, transformation coach. Um, I do personal training, nutrition training. I've went through that journey on my own. So I love to be able to help others to lessen their learning curve if I can do so. So that's what interested me into coaching to help other people.
So let me ask you a question. You mentioned something that was interesting out of a lot of things to say. You said that you went through this on your own.
I
Now,
did.
sometimes obviously God brings us, through that wilderness experience. Expound on that. What do you mean because individuals, people are there, but
Yeah.
you can still feel alone or you can still go through alone and have to navigate. So what did you mean?
So when I say alone, I'm meaning like I didn't technically have a coach with me like through the whole thing. Um, I've had trainers here and there. I went through a lot of trial and error with my weight loss journey. So I was that person that used to yo-yo diet. And I also have, started the workouts, been real good at it. Next thing you know, I lose some weight, get comfortable, stop doing it. So I've done a lot of up and down through the years before finally finding a way that I could stick to and make it an actual lifestyle, not a diet.
And what was that way for you? Because I know for me, it was healing from certain things and the trauma and some of the things that happened. I know actually, hold on, I was actually looking at this the other day because I did this interview, and one of the women says, well, everybody, like, in business, they want to show all of their, like, really, really cool pictures of them all, high profile and looking amazing. And whenever she goes to speak, she shows her before picture. And that just shows the reality of life and what's happened. And so, like, this one was me. This was like my before, right? And this, I had so much
Hmm.
trauma. I had so many things going on. And then as I started the journey and healing the trauma, the physical part was a lot easier. The weight was a lot easier, you know? And so, for me, that was huge. So guys, I mean, put a one in the chat if that's been you before, where you have to you realize you've been yo-yoing up and down and you're trying to figure out this way. You're trying to figure out really what is it that's causing you to go up and down, up and down, up and down, right? So did you notice anything? Was that something that was big for you? in losing weight and getting into the place, healing from trauma?
Yeah, one of the biggest things for me was changing my mindset, and yeah, healing from things, because there was a lot of things that I was holding on to, and holding on to that hurt was like, it was like the weight. Um, it was probably heavier than the weight, to be honest. So I had to learn how to just release everything and be me and be happy with who I was. And then um, I also just leaned more on God, and I was able to make decisions more as I wasn't trying to lose weight, I was trying to be healthier.
I love, love, love that. Guys, this was the same thing. There was something that shifted when I did it just because it became an outlet, because it became a conviction that I was not being a good steward of my body. Became a conviction. How can I teach students? And, even if I had to stay overweight because there were thyroid issues and all that other stuff, there was ways behind the scenes that I needed to do and be more consistent in ways. Find that way, right? Because I had thyroid issue, I had all those different things, and I had to still find a way. And I love what you also said about, you had to be happy with yourself, but it's really with where you are at. You needed to not be the biggest critic of yourself and be more compassionate. Allow yourself to say, okay, I understand where you're at. I acknowledge where you're at, but you also had to say, okay, I'm not going to lose the weight with the thought process of people will love me more, I'll be more successful, or all these other things, right? So you started putting some self-care priority, and you had to then put boundaries. So whenever you guys set priorities, you have to set boundaries too, or else those priorities will no longer stay a priority because there's nothing to protect it and keep it in place. Yes, you have to have consistency and all that other stuff. But it's really the boundary that, nothing is going to stop it. So what do you have to say about that? Because you did self-care, and then
Yeah, the boundaries are really, really important, because I was the one that would always like cross my own boundaries. I would set the boundary, and then I would go ahead and like, well, this is my time to do this. But if somebody else needed me, I'd put it down and go do that, and then end up never getting back to what I was trying to do for myself. So I wasn't even making myself a priority. So that's why I had a hard time, and like I would do good for a while and then not do good, because I drained myself and didn't ever take the time. So now I started realizing like sometimes it's more beneficial to just stop and take like 30 minutes, an hour, even 10 minutes sometimes, and just do something for me, or just be, before trying to finish doing everything else.
yeah, what's interesting too is, and I don't know if this has helped you or not, but I know I teach with the fivefold in the marketplace, and each and every one does something different. And I remember, I'm like the evangelistic. I remember telling you that you're very evangelistic, and so when that happens, your self care and your boundaries look different than mine, right? And so
Right.
mine was not so much being there for everybody, right? Right? It wasn't much for that. It was more so going into the thought process of, okay, I'm going to build, I'm going to, serve my students, and I'm going to do all this other stuff. That was my priority, right? So you guys know that,
Right.
you and I work together. And so, if you text me, if you need me, that was the boundary that was hard, right? To be able to say,
Right.
okay, well, she needs me, and I have to respond at a certain time. But I want you guys to look at this. Siobhan is different. Hers is not about building or working or doing anything in specific, right? Hi, Johanna. It's not that. It's more so
Right.
everybody else needing ministry.
Mhm. Right. I would literally feel bad to tell somebody no and not be there if they needed me. So I had to really take the time to um, respect my own time and boundaries, honestly, because I was just wearing myself out, and I really couldn't even be there for other people fully because I was so tired. I remember a point where I would sit down and just fall asleep because I was so exhausted from always going and stretching myself and extending myself. So like it just wasn't good, and I wasn't even able to do the things that I had listed to do or wanted to get done because I was too exhausted to do anything more than halfway.
So I kind of we before this broadcast, we had some other before we had some tech issues. We addressed some things. We addressed the sleeping and we addressed that. But before, so I want to get to that because those were really important. But there was something that was big. So when I met Siobhan walked through. I think it was Siobhan walked through my dojo doors. I had a kickboxing and self-defense dojo, and she walked through my doors, and she was just like, uh, I want to do kickboxing, so on and so forth. And what really stuck out to me was that she was a beast, dude. I mean, there was no stopping her. When she was focused, she was focused. When she was consistent, she was so consistent. Like it was just like when she said it, that's what she wanted to do, and she went for it. And but this was also a really big pivotal point in your life, right? Because you walked through those doors knowing that you knew it was time to change. So what brought you to that breaking point?
Honestly, what was that? It was like maybe 2017. That was after having a car accident and fracturing my pelvis. So I really just knew that I had to change a lot of things. Like I couldn't keep being tired like that. Um, I needed to be able to take some of the weight off of my joints because, after fracturing my pelvis, um, I mean, I had the chance of my hip hurting and getting arthritis and struggling to be able to walk normal again. So like I just knew like I had to do everything that I could to stop that from happening. I didn't want to be the person to have pain or to have a limp forever. So I just knew that it was time to like change a lot of things, including putting myself first and doing what I needed to do in a lot of different areas.
And you talked about um, that it doesn't have to be extravagant, right? People think that self-care is like getting their hair done and their nails and looking all that. Listen, it is a part of that. I mean, that is self-care.
Hmm.
You want to keep yourself manicured. When COVID hit, I went and got
Right.
a dip acrylic set, and I went and started doing the things that I needed to do to keep myself up. And being gone in COVID restrictions was not an excuse for me, right? So we talked about that. You
Yeah.
said, I remember in the last episode you had said, it is not that serious. You don't have to like do a lot. And we talked about something simple,
Yeah.
going out in the sun for 5 minutes and just being grateful and letting the sun hit your face.
Yeah, sometimes just being outside. Sometimes I'll just sit on my porch and just sit there. Now, like before, I thought self care was like when I took a trip or when I went to a spa, which didn't happen but a couple times a year. So no wonder I was exhausted all the time. I wasn't like ever stopping to take a moment to just breathe. But now I'll try to do that even if it's nothing more than 5-10 minutes a day, and just stopping and like just doing something I want to do, or sometimes it's just nothing and just sitting and just being.
Yeah. And I love that because you're secure enough with yourself to just be. Because sometimes when we sit in that quiet and that solitude, we, not sitting, a lot of times we're running. I mean, put a one in
Yes.
the chat if that's you, right? A lot of times, I remember not wanting to be in the silence because then I would have to hear God say, daughter, work on this, daughter, do this, or forgive here, or
Mhm.
do this here, or you were wrong in that conversation, go back and apologize, or go reconcile that relationship. You were out of order. And I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah, I never wanted to hear that I had to sometimes accept the apologies that you never got.
Woo!
That was
That's a good
one
one,
for
girl.
me. Yes, I always wanted people to own up to what they did because I did. If I did something wrong, I would apologize. So I thought everybody was supposed to do that. And that was another thing. Like I had to realize everybody's not the same and everything is different for everybody. So there's just little things that sometimes you have to change that make a big difference.
This was something that was really, this was something that was really, really big that I heard. I think it was Mike Todd or somebody say, and it was so big because they said your I can't remember how they said it, your walk or your call or how you show up, you know, the forgiveness, the everything that you are is not reliant on someone else's ability to come to their own understanding, right? And have their eyes understanding and see God and, you know, and apologize or, you know, ask for forgiveness or any of those. So that was
Yeah,
really, that was,
everything, everybody's life is different. So, what worked for one person is probably not going to work for the next person because we have to figure out what's our own way. So,
exactly.
like you can't even like you can look at what other people did and how they did it, but you still have to rearrange it for yourself and what's going to work for you and what you need instead of like nothing's ever the same for two people. We're all, but think about us, all of our DNA is completely different. So, you know, nothing's going to work exactly the same for anybody.
Yeah, something that I've had to grow and understand, and I'm still walking a lot of this out is, you know, when somebody has hurt you, when somebody has done these things, that you know, it can stop you from ministry. It can stop you
Oh, yeah.
from opening up completely. It can stop you from a lot of things. And what
Oh,
I
yeah.
would do is I held the same standard for everybody. Well, like what you just said. Well, if I own up to my own stuff, right? I smell my own crap. And when I finally get it,
Mhm.
then, you know, when I work for it, then so should you. But they're not reading, you know, 40 hours of audiobooks, you know, listening to audiobooks and reading books and self-developing and have set an intention. They're not setting an intention to be with God and intimacy and all those things. You know, and if they are, then I have to trust that God will speak to them as well.
Right. Sometimes we try to do too much, and sometimes it's not meant for us to do it all, and we have to just sit back and, maybe just give that person that advice and let God do the rest instead of trying to hold their hand.
Now, with you being very evangelistic and very and you know, um, as that one part, that supporting gift and more pastoral with the main, and you like to hold hands. You like to bring them through and know and love on them and so on and so forth. How does that affect your self-care? And remember, priorities and self-care go together, like the priority and boundary go together. So what are you doing or what have you done to set that boundary?
So to set that boundary, I more so like I schedule things for myself, and like I'm not going to go against that. So no matter what anybody needs, if it's something that I have to do, then that's what I have to get done. And I can get to you later. Where before I would just stop what I was doing and just be there for everybody. It's okay to let them wait a little bit.
Yeah, you know what's so funny? I kept on hearing all these years, and it didn't grasp me till, you know, eventually when everything in my life and as I matured, and it was like their emergency is not mine. And you think about it for your clients too. Their lack of preparation is not my emergency. And I would like do everything that I
Right.
needed to do for my students and all this other stuff. And then it was like God convicted me like, wait a minute. They had plenty of time to prepare and do what they needed. I've been speaking to them. I've been teaching them. I've been all that. That shouldn't be your emergency, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
one thing, before we talk about the sleep part too, but one thing that I've learned to do is in my phone, I have a do not disturb. It goes black and white, and then throughout the day, sometimes I even do this. So it's easier for me not to jump to people's emergencies anymore because they can't get a hold of me. Like I know to check my emails at one or two times throughout the day, and after 7 o'clock, good luck, because I might jump on to check some messages if I have that time, but um, like this week we're getting ready for this week and making some little protein like cupcakes and stuff like that and cookies and things like that so we can kind of have that on the go food, and there's no excuse to eat crappy. So after we're done, there's a certain period that I shut it off. And um of course everybody worries about kids and certain family members, so I also have the ability to, when in the do not disturb, hit the star so the preferred people that can get through the do not disturb can call me. So if my son's teacher or daughter's teacher,
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. Because we have to schedule everything in order to keep track as well. Because if you're not putting it on the schedule, it's a lot easier for you to stop what you're doing and do something else and then never get done the tasks that you have scheduled to do.
yeah, and throughout here we've talked about that whenever you set priorities, especially self-care as a priority, you have to also set the boundary. What are you not willing to allow in to hinder you from that, right? Understanding that other people's emergency or lack of preparation is not something that is your responsibility. It's not,
Right.
we just have to, we want to be compassionate, but then we kind of say, well, that's not really Christian like. But there are
Right.
boundaries. Jesus, I remember
There
Jesus
are.
doing certain things, and he said, "Get thee behind me, Satan," to his own disciple, because he had a
Right.
priority, he had something set, and there was a boundary that was set.
Because even as Christians, like it it's okay to say no sometimes, and we can help, but we don't have to take it on and make it our own struggle also. It's
I
just
love
there.
that. Yeah,
You know.
I love
Let
that
you
because
can
we
let
don't have
them
to
be
burden.
keep it and just help them.
Right, and there's so many people who don't know how to burden bear appropriately, right? They don't know how to
Right.
burden bear appropriately. And that's the biggest thing. So we want to help, but then we take on everything on our own too. So, we talked about a few things in here. One of the other things that was really big, and I'm going to read that section that I did before, um, was sleep. Now, we already know that when we're multitasking, it actually takes away 60%, okay, of our ability to focus, our retention, all those different things, right? It actually
Hmm.
it hurts us by 60%. So we're not as effective because we're multitasking. That means that we're so not focused. I remember sitting on Saturday morning and I said, I'm putting everything aside and I'm finishing this manuscript. And I did absolutely nothing else until I finished it. Um,
Right.
and then the other thing was, we talked about sleep. I think a lot for, especially for mothers, a lot, wives, when they have more so than men in a lot of perspectives, because we hold a lot of the weight of family and, doctor's appointments and their schedule and our schedule and all that. And it said that a lack of sleep has actually been associated with junk food cravings, confused food desires, and weight gain. In one study, people were deprived of one night's sleep and spent more money on the mad food like products, right? Which are,
Hmm.
you got the Burger Kings and the crappy foods and the everything on the outer. Everybody says everything on the inside of the grocery store. Everything on the outside perimeter is usually what you should shop for, which is what the vegetables, the that
The vegetables and the produce and the meats and
right. And then it says, what happened is the next day, off of just not even sleeping, what ended up happening is they went and they spent more money with empty calories and bought grams of food in a mock market, a supermarket the following day. And researchers also have found higher levels of hormone that increases hunger. All of this, and it can have you unhealthy weight gain, all that. So sometimes we're trying to lose weight when really, and this is what you were talking about, you had to find out what worked and what didn't, and really why. You asked yourself,
Yeah.
why was I yo-yo dieting? Why was I going in a cycle? And yours was you weren't healing with trauma. And,
Mhm.
some of the weight gains and the things, what was it? Well, if you're not, it might just be you're not sleeping appropriately. You're not eating the right, vitamins and supplements.
Yeah. So I know I was carrying a lot internally. So it was basically just weighing on me just as much as the fat. um I was holding that into it was affecting my sleep. I was like more negative. So like all of that was weighing down as well. And once I was able to start to release a lot of that stuff, then everything else was able to come together. Um, when I ate, I made better choices to eat instead of getting quick stuff or emotionally eating. I used to do that a lot too. So now I don't even snack as much as I used to. Um, I mean, I could choose healthier options now, but I don't even do that because it was a lot of I wasn't even hungry. I was just more like in my feelings. So
Yeah.
letting a lot of that stuff go like helped everything.
I totally get you. I mean, everybody put a one in the chat if that's you. You can be in your feelings and you can eat and all that stuff. I remember the lack of sleep because of the adrenal and thyroid issues and the weight gain and all that. Um,
Mhm.
because my body just isn't really meant to hold all that weight. What ended up happening is, your mood changes, your attitude changes. I would be so much more emotional. I'm just exhausted. I'd find myself crying, and then like, the kids do certain
Mhm.
something. They're kids. They're going to do certain things, and then I just like crying because you know I don't have the strength to do it because
Yeah.
I wasn't doing the self care that I needed. I remember a couple times even last week where coming from sickness, I had to take a break. And
Right.
I was like, I should either go to the gym or go take a nap. And I was sitting there typing. I was like, when I'm done, and I went like this. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go take a nap.
Nap time.
And I did. I went and took a nap. And it was like maybe 30 minutes or so, but I felt a bit refreshed. I didn't really sleep, but I rested. So,
Right.
we're talking about, like, again, guys, we're talking about priority and boundaries. And then we're talking about, um, I mean, we've talked about a lot of different things. I mean, you have to listen again. But what are some other things that we can wrap up with that, what is prioritizing self-care, what that did for you?
What that did for me was it was actually able to help me slow down because I was just always going. Like even how you were able to stop, you didn't really take the nap, but you rested. Like I would stop to do that, and there still wasn't never any rest because my mind never stopped. Um, because I was just always thinking about stuff and planning stuff and all of that. So I learned how to just slow down and stop and take a break and do things that I enjoy so that then I can get back to the other stuff later. um, trying to force things isn't going to help you. It might help you get it done, but it might not be well. So if you can stop and take the break and then go back to it, then you can usually put the full effort into it than just doing halfway and just to say you got it done.
I love how you said that because I was doing some research a long time ago, and they were saying that you have to find your work ability. So some people are like a 30-minute hardcore straight undisturbed, boom, let me get this work done. some are 30, some are 45, and then you
Mhm.
start to see a decline. Some are 90 minutes, and then you start to see a decline. And so you have to identify. And when I started taking breaks, like maybe every hour, go take a 15-minute break and then go back to another thing. Or sometimes if I'm really steady working, I'll do an hour and a half and I'll take the break. I noticed it was amazing. It really, really was amazing. When I, just go out, like I said, get some tea, shift a little bit. And I was able to, God, like, was able to speak to me so much more clear. And I'm just like, oh, yes, oh, yes. And I got more creativity because I stepped away. Now, here's the difference,
Right.
guys, because when you multitask, meaning you're working on one thing, but then you're also doing something else, that takes your attention span down 60%. But what is also said is when you go back to that task that you were working on, it takes you about 20 minutes to get back to that area of focus. This is not that. That's a multitasking thing. What we're
Mhm.
saying is step away from where you are, still thinking, you can still think about that project or book or whatever, or sometimes you don't. It just depends. You're just in a different environment and it just produces creativity. So a lot of people have a fear that if I don't do it, if I don't do it right now, I'm not going to be able to.
Right. Where sometimes it's better to just not do it right now, because then when you go back to it, you're going to be so much more productive and creative than if you're trying to force it and just getting it done.
Yeah, yeah, and I love it. I love how you've learned to take certain things, apply that one thing to your life, steady, really at it. And yeah, you might falter a little bit, but you get back on and you're working on that, condemning yourself and all that stuff. And then we just move forward. We just move forward. And I love to see you grow. You've grown so much. And I'm so
Thank you.
excited because guys, she's launching in her business. She has amazing shea butters that she creates. I love them, and so she has her own. I'm going to say beauty care line, and she wanted to really combine it with a message. And I love that because I was studying on the founder of It Cosmetics, and she also had the reason why she was so successful. Yes, because she was resilient and
Hmm.
unrelenting in the beauty industry because she was like, listen, they would tell her, if you haven't read the book, believe it, you should, but they would sit there and tell her, you're fat and not that attractive. So for us to use your makeup, I really doubt it would sell. And they were thinking about the bottom line. And she's like, dude, do you know how many people are just like me and need to see me?
Right.
um, you know, looking nice and coverage. And she had like rosacea, and so all the makeup would crack and all that. So she finally got a formula that was full coverage, and dealt with the condition that she had. And I look at that and I look at your resilience and I'm excited because you have the same thing. She had a message behind her product, and we always talk about that, but you've actually put coaching to it, mentoring and things like that, and other ebooks and other things that you're creating and kind of doing along the way, and you're starting to speak. Uh, and it's like, did you think you were going to be here like a couple years ago?
Not at all. Like I was that person that always tried to hide. I never thought I'd be like in the front of the camera or even being an entrepreneur, because I just wanted to like be quiet to the side and do what I was doing. But like you said, a lot of times people need to see somebody that's like them. Um, somebody that failed at a lot of stuff but just kept going and trying again. Sometimes it's just the next try. So,
Yeah.
just keeping going. I
So
used to be
as a,
afraid of failing. But I learned that failing forward, just learning something from that failure and just keep going.
yeah, I love it because you're taking a look at other things that and saying, okay, well,
Hmm.
this didn't work, so let me just tweak it. So my last question to you is, you've gone through this journey of self-care, right? you've done this, and you're understanding, and you're working out, and you're doing these things because you love your body, you love yourself, you have goals, you want to lose more, tone more. I think we all do, right? But you're still happy with yourself, dressing sexy, looking sexy, um, your earrings, your lip gloss, all those different things that make you feel amazing. One thing that I love is smelling good. So even if I'm sitting at my desk and nobody is here, I have my oils on and all that stuff. So let me ask you, you weren't an entrepreneur before, and you
Mhm.
learned the self-care, you were growing there, and now you're building a business, with like birthing twins, a dual thing. um,
Mhm.
what what have you learned as far as your self-care now that has changed? I mean, now you'll be going to the gym with me at 5 a.m. So I mean, I know that probably changed, but um, what have you seen? What can you tell somebody that didn't have a business at one point, maybe before COVID, and now they are trying to do it? What does that self-care look like for you now?
So you still want to take the time for yourself, and schedule in the time for yourself, and um not make it less of a priority. Like, I know your business is going to be important too, but you still have to schedule in your own self-care so that you are able to put in the work with your business, and be able to stop and just take those moments for yourself, and then be able to put everything that you can into your business. um, so that's one of the things. And just you're gonna try a lot of things that aren't gonna work, but just to keep trying, keep going, keep moving. Try something else if something didn't work, because you're gonna get a million no's. You're gonna get a lot of things that you try that don't work out how you saw it working out, but you can always try again. You just gonna figure out how to solve that problem and move forward.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I will say this, I am definitely so proud of you. You guys can look her up on her social media at Siobhan Walker.
Thank you.
Um, she does have amazing, like I said, a really good beauty line, and I love the purity of it and her heart behind it. The naturopathic ways of doing, and I love again how she's coupled her product, her physical product, with a message, and she wants it to mean something. And so I love how you know that path, because you are defying a lot of odds. Whatever, we've worked on that together, whatever God is saying, you start to do, and you just say, okay, even though it doesn't look like what it might look like in the industry now, but you're pressing forward. So thank you so much for coming on.
Right.
And thank you so much for talking about self-care, and helping us understand that self-care is a priority, and with it you have to put boundaries, um, to be able to become as great as you can become. So did you want to leave us with any last words?
um I mean, just remember that you're a priority too, no matter what other things that you have to do, no matter who you might be taking care of as well. Just always remember that you're a priority and you're important, and to stop and love on yourself.
That is awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Like I said, I'm just excited to have
Thank
you.
you for having me.
Yes, yes. And I want to bring more up, from the academy, because they're phenomenal individuals that have, amazing message from their own perspectives, their own trials and things that they've been through. And so I'm glad that I can witness today Siobhan stepping into her greatness, and stepping into what God has really called her to do, stepping and being uncomfortable. stepping on camera. I mean, it took me years to get used to being on camera. Most of it was on camera, and then I would and load the video, and then like recently, go live. But it's funny because Siobhan's like, okay, I'm gonna jump in, and this chick is going live like straight up. Get the videos. It's like, let me go live and videos. I'm like, what the heck?
Go ahead and do it. Sometimes that's all it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So, just catching the end. Women after the same heart. Awesome. Yes. After the same heart. Siobhan was talking to us about self-care and how whenever you have self-care, it is a priority, but you also have to put the boundaries in place to ensure that you can carry out that self-care. And what it was like to transition from, her self-care with her, not owning a business, and then now her mentoring, and how that shifted for her. So definitely watch the replay. We're going to head off. So grateful to have you guys watch. And we're going to see you next time. Hi, Deneen, Sarah, Lucia, Johanna, all you wonderful, beautiful women. All right, guys, we will talk to you later.